It's my daddy's make it hurt.
Welcome in. Your eyes do not deceive you. It is the Team Cover Podcast, and we have grown. Our numbers have grown. As you can see, we are joined by two special guests tonight, Coach Ivan Evans, my guy Denard Melton, who I do the Fire Zone show with. We go through and do a little proper intro for each person, but we are back. We are back for our third annual Ravens first round bracket show. Going for the three-peat, coming off 2 in a row, feeling good, confident. But we were just talking before we went live how this year is tricky. This year is tricky up at the top. A lot of different things can happen, a lot of different scenarios, but we feel good. We're going to get into it and chop it all up. But before we do that, I'm just going to go around the room again on everybody. It's been a minute since we've all talked to each other together. I'll start with our guest. I'll start with Denard. How you doing, man? How things been going? You can see I'm repping. I don't know if people can see it. I'm sitting down. I'm repping Fire Zone show. Got my shirt on.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Everything's good, man. It's good to be with you gentlemen tonight, talking a little bit of draft and the possibilities that might be available to the Ravens here at 14 or maybe even sooner.
No doubt. I'm gonna go to you next, Coach. Y'all might not recognize Coach Slim and Trent, man, down fighting weight. I got there in center field.
Yeah, I think I got one wheel route left in me. What's up, Deep Cover Podcast, man? I'm always appreciative every time I get to come on with you guys, man, because it feel like, brothers that I don't have biologically that I get to come on and talk football with.
We love having you on. We love having Denard on. We know how y'all get down, and that's why we like doing this, man. It's fun. And we, a little sneak peek. I'm gonna put it out there early. It's a year early, but Coach, kind of say, hey, man, we need to kind of do our own thing next year when it comes to the draft. We all sometimes kind of get pulled in different directions, get asked to be on different shows or do whatever. And as soon as you told me that, Coach, I was like, oh, say less. We're gonna do that. So,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Be on the lookout, 2023.
So in case you 365 from now, us 5, we doing the draft weekend together.
Yeah.
That sounds like a trip that needs to happen, more just being in a remote location.
Hey, I like the way you think.
I mean, we 365 out. There's enough time for us to be all black people and pull out at the end, but
only thing that stop me from doing that is I am in spring football. Spring football is always around the draft, so I ain't gonna be able to meet unless y'all meet.
Exactly.
I don't know if you guys know. There's a Deep Cover headquarters in Miami.
Right.
That's right.
We'll work it out. We do
got the HQ down there. We don't like to publicize. This group is all good. Y'all can come through. Let me go to you, Kerry, man. It's been a minute. Good to see you and Chris. Every time we get to chop it up, it's always a good thing. Like Coach said, I couldn't have said it better. Brothers from another mother. And, y'all have had my back recently. Everybody on here know. I ain't trying to put it out there for the whole world, but they know that, had kind of a health, situation in my family with my wife. And look, God is good. That's all I'm going to say. And Chris and Kerry had me. Coach had me. Denard had me. So I appreciate y'all for that. But what's been going on, Kerry?
Good, man. Like you say, just glad to be chopping it up with my brothers. This draft is a lot going on. It seems so open, so it's good to have a conversation with 4 other people. I trust their opinion, and we're gonna wind this thing down, man, and go for this 3-peat.
It is not 1, not 2, maybe 3. I know, man. How you been?
Well, Kerry's being modest because it's a 3-peat for Deep Cover, but it's going to be a 4-peat for him because he had the Hollywood pick. So, I know Kerry's humble, but I'll do the bragging for him. But it's good, man. It's good to be with you guys, like always. It's always fun to talk with you guys, whether it's football, whether it's the draft, whether it's life. It's always good to talk with you guys.
And Kerry, you put out a first round mock tonight, right?
Yeah, I threw one out there, man. I tried to follow the consensus a little bit, try to pick up tea leaves from beat writers, but I also like to try to throw my own little spin in there. So Jameson Williams 4th overall. Let's go.
Let's get it.
Yeah, and the Ravens pick. I'm not gonna spoil it. Y'all go to his Twitter and go check it out, man, and see who he picked. And that's gonna be a surprise to some people too. But okay, so as we all know, and I'll explain it if we got any people tapping in for the first time, haven't seen us do these shows before. This is kind of NCAA tourney bracket style thing that we started doing a couple of years ago, and it's just for the Ravens' first round pick. Last year, they ended up having 2 picks after the Orlando Brown Jr. trade, but we only made one because we were working with the one that they had originally. Of course, we got that one correct with Rashad Bateman. But we try to narrow the pool of players down to people who we realistically think will be available at 14, and that's, like Chris and I were talking about earlier, that's based on a lot of stuff. That's based it's basically consensus. It's what people are doing in mocks. It's what we think, our own opinions. And, we kind of just all, and then the group here, we all just kind of come together and create that pool of players. So I'm going to put that up on the screen in a minute so everybody can kind of see who we're working with. But y'all got to refresh me because we only do this once a year. Everybody's got a player that they're going to step out there and make the case for. How much time did we do? Was it 2 minutes or 3 minutes? I don't remember how much time we were doing.
I don't even think it was that. I think it was like a minute, right?
A minute? It was a minute?
Well, I believe so. We had a lot more players too, didn't it?
Yeah, that's what it was. It was a lot more players.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, we could do I feel like a minute's gonna go by fast.
Yeah, we can do 2.
Yeah, do 2.
Yeah, do 2.
Because I got my timer. Yeah, let's do 2, and then if we need to adjust, we can adjust. Okay, so we're gonna do 2 minutes per player. Each of us has agreed for the player that we're gonna represent, and we stick with our guy all the way through from round to round. And so we'll make the case. The person will make the case. The other person will go, and then we'll do kind of a around the horn vote, right, on who won that round, and then that player gets pushed through to the next round, so on and so forth. I don't think there's anything else we need to talk about. I think that's it. Yeah, I think we're good. All right, let's get this up on the screen. Get the thing off. All right, here it come. Let me see, make it a little bit bigger. I think that's big enough. Yeah, we're good. I can scroll over. I'll be the scroller. Okay, so we're gonna start off on this left-hand side, and I guess that very first matchup, top left, we got is Kerry stepping up for Drake London, wide receiver out of USC, and Coach Evans for Jameson Williams, wide receiver Alabama. Yeah, we didn't do this either. We had this happen last year. Who wants to go first between y'all two?
Kerry can go.
Yeah, I'll go.
All right, I'm gonna put the timer up. Ooh,
Oh. I was staring at you.
I was about to be like, what time I got?
You can't concentrate.
Yeah, we had the reggae timer last year. I couldn't find that. We got this big one. All right, Kerry, you tell me when you're ready. I'll click start.
Okay, I'm ready. All right, man. Drake London, 20 years old, only 20. Basketball player. I'm a sucker for those guys with the basketball background. Feel like they just kind of move a little bit more creatively, a little bit more loosely. I think that's going to help him at the line of scrimmage. He's a big guy, 6'3", 50-50 ball doesn't do him justice. It's more like 70-30, 80-20. If you throw it in his vicinity, he's going to catch it. Mike, a couple weeks ago, you were posting some clips in the chat and showing examples of guys that if we had a jump ball guy, we had a guy that can kind of change the strike zone a little bit for Lamar, how things might have been different at times with the offense. So I think Drake London brings you that. I think he's a guy that can move around the formation. He complements what they already have. If you want to kind of dig into that back shoulder game a little bit more, you got Bateman already. London can give you that. And just an all-around great fit, I think, for the offense. So that's it. That's all I got, man.
We have a lot of time on the way.
You might have been right. Maybe we only needed a minute. You might be right because
Okay, we can go to a minute.
I think what we did last year was we were letting you carry time over.
Yeah. Yep.
That was a fiasco because I was
Yeah.
writing it down.
Yeah, maybe split the difference and do a minute and a half.
I don't remember none of it.
Oh yeah, Kerry said a minute and a half.
Yeah, do a minute and a half.
You want to do a minute and a half? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Coach. Let's do this. Take this down. All right, Coach. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Go.
All right. Jameson Williams didn't run at the combine, obviously, because he got hurt. But there's no doubt in my mind that he's a 4.3 guy, somewhere in that range. And with a 4.3 guy, you normally get deep balls, deep posts, deep over, stuff like that. But with Jameson, you get a guy that can actually run routes. He can run your intermediate routes, he can run your short routes, and then he can also blow the top off the coverage. And not only can he blow the top off the coverage, he can take a slant, maybe a curl or a dig. And if you don't tackle him right then, he's so explosive, he can outrun the other guys. And he's not one of those small receivers that like 5'11", 5'8" with speed. He's actually 6'2". Has some jump ball ability. That's not his strong suit, but he can do it. Back shoulder is you really don't see much back shoulder with him because a lot of people don't keep up with it because he's running by people, left and right. And so he has height that would help us because we need a bigger receiver because we got 4 or 5 receivers. I think I did a study the other day. 4 or 5 receivers that are 5'11" or shorter. And so we need a guy 6'2", 6'3", and above. I think he'll instantly be, if not your fastest, one of your faster guys. He gives you jump ball ability, and he gives you intermediate route stuff that can turn into explosive play. And a lot of people have him as the best receiver in the draft. So if he's there at 14, why not?
I was early on that. My bad. Okay. All right. You've heard the cases. Now we're gonna go around the room. Chris, I'm gonna start with you. Who you voting for?
My vote is going to be for Drake London. One, he's healthy first of all right now, so that's huge. We need a guy that could step in and be able to bring a different element to the Ravens right now. And they say that Jameson's on track, but like we saw last year with the Ravens, on track doesn't really mean on track for us. So it's better be safe than sorry. And Drake London, he provides a skill set that we don't have. A bigger receiver, a guy that can provide some yak ability, and he has a lot of experience playing on the outside and also on the inside. And to me, he's more of a developed receiver, which I trust more in Baltimore because they've had a very difficult time developing receivers. So I like a guy who can step in and know how to play the different positions at the receiver group. So that's why I picked Drake London.
All right, there's one vote for Drake London. Denard, who you voting for?
I think I'm gonna stick with Drake. I think the presence is needed on this football team to change the dynamic in the red zone, as well as finding a receiver that can win those contested jump balls against the Steelers in the weather when you're going to have to grind out those types of games. And we just don't really have that type of receiver that has proven it on this squad to make those big plays. So if this gentleman's going to step in and do those things, those have to happen from the word go and not a year from now.
There's another vote for Drake London. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter what I say, but I think Drake is already through to the next round. I want to say Jameson Williams because he's got explosiveness and another gear, whether it's with the ball in his hands after the catch or when the ball is in the air. There's just another gear. And you watch that guy accelerate in the SEC against a bunch of other fast dudes. and he's running away from dudes. So I want to say Jameson Williams. Now people may say, well, hey, you got Hollywood, he's got speed. Bateman ain't no slouch in that department. Got some other fast guys on the team and Duvernay. So if my vote was going to make the difference here, I was going to probably go Drake London too, just because of the composition of the wide receiver group. Not necessarily that I think, in a vacuum, if you just say, hey, don't worry about all that other stuff, just which one of these wide receivers you want, I probably would take Jameson. But since we're doing this for the Ravens and I'm thinking about the composition of that wide receiver group, I think London would bring something that they don't currently have and could open up some things in the passing game. So I'd go with Drake. So that's a 3.
Can I make I gotta ask a question to and I know I lost, so I ain't trying to rebuttal it, but I just want to
like you are.
Drake had 88 catches in 8 games, and most of us already know that. But do y'all know how many of those were screens? And not asking for like a specific number, but actually just saying 75% of those were screens. There's not a lot of tape of him for real running routes and catching balls.
Yeah.
But that says a lot for a guy that's 6'5" running screens too. So that's kind of a knock, but then a plus at the same time, because it speaks to me on his lateral ability and ability to make people miss. But then on the negative side, how well does he run routes? So even though, I lost, I'm cool with Drake London being on the team because being 6'5", like Denard said, put him in the red zone, and now you got options out there.
Yeah, I was telling the guys after I watched him, he reminds me of Vincent Jackson, but he's got more wiggle after the catch. That's what I see when I watch him.
I can agree with that. He definitely has some uncanny wiggle for a guy that tall. He's not stiff.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense the way he moves and the way he's able to avoid contact and tacklers. It doesn't make sense because you see this dude that's big and you expect him to be like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, just a tall dude who just lines up on the outside and that's all he does. But they move him around quite a bit, and I think he lined up a lot more in the slot than he did on the outside. So a lot of people that just line him up and they say, oh yeah, he could just be on the outside like that. That's a mischaracterization of him.
The only person I've seen moved around more in this film season was Burks, because London was everywhere. The number 2 receiver in trips, the number 3 receiver, the outside guy, he was everywhere. And
on Jameson, a lot of people, they're gonna not think like, oh, he's just a fast finesse guy. Jameson's a dog too. They got him playing special teams down at Alabama. He got kicked out of a damn game. I think it was the Auburn game. He might have got kicked out or something, and for targeting. So he was headhunting as a gunner over there in Alabama. So he's not just some fast, soft finesse wide receiver. He likes to get dirty.
Yeah.
Drake, a young dude too. I clicked over to that tab. I didn't realize he was that young. He's not 21 yet.
Yeah,
he's 21 in July. So 20-year-old.
And his sister's an Instagram model. If anybody wants to look her up.
Wow.
Hey.
Dynamite drop in, Chris.
That up. Okay, we're gonna jump across. We're gonna go over to the other side of the bracket. I think that's how I wanted to do it, how we did it last year. I think we might have all just did it on one side. I can't remember because we got fewer players. We're gonna jump across and kind of crisscross this thing. So that's gonna put me in a tough matchup here. Going against Denard with Devin Lloyd. Denard, you want to go first, or how you want to do it?
I'll go first. Hold on. I'll let you get your clock, your fancy clock.
I knew Denard was ready.
The man is ready.
He don't need it. He don't need this time. He gonna say it quick and get to the point.
I need 30 seconds.
Got notes ready. You got notes ready.
I'm trying to play by the rules. All right, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So Devin Lloyd, the case for Devin Lloyd I feel like is very simple. This gentleman controls the middle of the field. He plays it like a safety. He played safety in high school. His cover skills and his speed and his knowledge of zones and everything of the sort would be a massive help to a team that has struggled with pass coverage in the middle of the field for the last 4 to 5 years. He's talented. He's aggressive. He flies to the football, and having that type of athlete next to Queen would make the middle of the field a different place and allow you to do different things on defense than you have been able to do over the course of the last 5 years.
There you go. He said he wasn't going to need all the time. He did not. All right. Get ready to time myself here. All right. I'm ready. Here we go. Trent McDuffie. Look at the Ravens cornerback situation right now, right? Your two projected starters, Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, coming off of injury. You look at the rest of the cornerback room, and you've got some guys who got a chance to play last year. We were talking about Kayvon Seymour, Robert Jackson, Brandon Stevens, depending on how you see him corner, safety, whatever, but he played a little bit of both. But, these are guys that were, aside from Brandon Stevens, those other guys, a little bit down the depth chart a little bit, right? So you're looking for another impact guy. We've heard Eric DeCosta talk about it himself, about how, they're not really satisfied with, where they are in terms of their cornerback depth right now. So you look at a guy like Trent McDuffie, can play outside, can play nickel, could even play safety. He said that himself. He said, I can be everything that teams want me to be, right? You see the movement skills, can mirror, can match guys. People are going to talk about his arm length, being short. That is what it is. He's played with this arm length his whole life and played well with it. His coaches rave about his intelligence, one of the smartest guys out there. So I think you get a guy who, if you take him at 14, comes in day one, year one, can line up at 3 different spots for you if you need him to and make an impact on the game. Physical tackler as well. Not afraid to stick his face in the fan in the run game, decent blitzer. So, just gives you all of that versatility, and you need multiple corners.
Right on time.
There it is. Okay, so we're going to go around, Coach. I'll start with you first. You get first vote on this one.
Since we're speaking specifically for needs in the first round, I got to go with McDuffie because of our interior linebackers are healthy, so to speak. We got those 2 starters coming off of season-ending injuries. You got to have a backup, and the names that you raffled off, I'd much rather have McDuffie starting over those guys. If something had to happen to Marlon or Juice Man. So my vote is McDuffie.
All right, there's one for Duffy. Kerry, I'll go to you next. Who you voting for?
Man, you could have put Jesus on this with Lloyd, and I'm taking Lloyd. That's my favorite play in this draft. No disrespect to nobody, but the Fire Zone show, man. If you guys haven't watched the Fire Zone episode with Devin Lloyd, please do. It's a comprehensive breakdown on what this guy can bring to a defense, and I mean, he laid it out perfectly. Middle of the field. This guy's long. He's physical. He can blitz. He can blitz from multiple platforms. He helps your pass rush. He helps your pass coverage. He keeps Queen on the weak side. He checks a lot of boxes, man. So I got to go with Lloyd.
I witnessed that episode up close and personal. It was tough for me. I'm going against myself in this one, but sometimes that's how it is in the draft. Chris, you get to break the tie.
So I think in a vacuum, I will go with Lloyd. But looking at the Ravens roster and the dudes that they have on there, I got to go with McDuffie because he's a guy that can have the inside out versatility. He's not going to be a true outside guy most of the times, but I know Mike and I were talking about it last night where I could see him maybe potentially being a Chris Harris type of player eventually down the line. And if the plan is to move Marlowe on the outside or even interchange him, just have him in the slot sometimes, have him on the outside, I think McDuffie's the perfect mate to do that, where you could kind of mix and match those two guys and let them play off each other. And I think McDuffie would be the guy for me. But it's hard because Lloyd is a hell of a player. Hell of a player. Every time you watch a Utah game, like they knew you got to avoid Lloyd, but he still was able to make play after play.
I will say this as a caveat is kind of how I look at the first round in terms of impact. If the individual is that you're bringing in can't start over your incumbent starters, you're wasting the pick.
Okay, with that being said, you think Lloyd could start over Queen?
He'll start over Bynes day one.
Well, nickel is a starter pretty much.
Yeah, I'm saying
Today's NFL.
He'll be on.
And McDuffie will start over the corners, not MP Juice Man and Marlo.
You also have to take into account the new defensive scheme that Eminem's bringing in.
Yeah, you're right. You're true. That is true. I have a question about Lloyd though. And you guys have obviously watched more games on Lloyd, and you're higher on him than I have. There's a game where they played in, I think, gray uniforms. Was that one of the Oregon games?
Sounds right.
So
that was USC.
That was my first impression of my first game watching of Lloyd, and that's what kind of spoiled him on me because I watched that game like 2 times, and it was a snooze fest trying to find, hey, what's the hype about this kid? And so that first impression probably turned me on him more than it should. But what happened that game? Or did I miss something? But I do like what Denard said about him playing like a safety. I never thought about that because he's probably the most freakish athlete in this draft.
And he was a safety in high school. He was a high school safety.
Yeah.
He came in. I think that was one of the Oregon games, wasn't it? Because we watched like 2 or 3. I think that with the gray uniforms, that might have been one.
Yeah, I feel like that was Oregon.
So I think I remember the game because in the Oregon game, their game plan, the Oregon couldn't throw outside.
Mm-hmm.
Their corners, Utah's corners just destroyed wide receivers. So throughout that entire game, Oregon's trying to run off tackle, but they really can't because they can't control the offensive line. So they're really kind of as a linebacker
in the wind.
Right. And when it's a lot of zone type of plays as a linebacker, you're not really involved.
Yeah, because they didn't run straight at him now. I will give you that. They didn't run straight at him. I will give you that.
So
it wasn't a bad game by him, but it was a boring game to watch because he wasn't really impactful. I'm not saying he sucked in the game. It just was.
No,
I was waiting on something to splash to catch my attention, and it just never did.
Against zone teams, linebackers are pretty much invisible unless something bad happens.
Unless they get out of place.
That means you're out of your hole.
Yep.
And that might have been the first Oregon game because in the championship game he had that pick 6.
Yeah, so it had to be the first game then. Yeah, it had to be the first game.
And then I think the USC game was a good one to watch too because you got to see him do some different stuff. I'm not saying whether it was right or wrong.
It wasn't super pretty.
Lining up defensive end as much as they did, but they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going back and forth. He was playing off the ball and he was playing basically like a DN outside linebacker type, just to show that he could do that, just to show that he had that versatility if you needed him to do that. So that was a good look too. But yeah, I was surprised that Chris voted the way he did because I know Trent McDuffie was one of the guys that you said you really struggled with. You were just like, I just don't really see it like with him.
Yeah, no, like I said, I've been leaning on a lot of people that I trust when it comes to his evaluation because he was a tough one. Like the way Coach was describing Devin Lloyd is how I felt sometimes watching McDuffie. Where I was just like, I'm not saying what everybody else is saying, but
I think that's how I feel about Dean. Yeah,
that's how you feel about Dean.
Yeah, I don't see the hype because he doesn't use his hands.
But But I surprised myself too. But a lot of it has to do with the usage and the current guys that are on the roster now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of it had to do and influence my pick too.
Yeah, because McDuffie, man, he was outside.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was mostly their field corner, and they play a lot of zone, a lot of
zone
scheme.
Yeah,
and he just didn't get a lot of action.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't see it. Kyler Gordon saw more because he played outside and in the slot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he got to just see a little bit more action just by virtue of playing in some different spots. And then, I had to go back. I know Coach don't like going back, but I had to go back and watch some previous year games to
Mm-hmm.
see him like more at the line of scrimmage, right? And even then, he's not like he didn't play you're not gonna see that old school traditional like jam press at the line. It's more
right.
He's motoring out, that kind of thing.
Fresh bell stuff. Now both of them are great. McDuffie and Gordon are great zone corners. Great zone corners. I just think McDuffie can do a little bit more on the man side of it, and then he has better catch up speed too. If something, if he misses on his technique or something like that. Yeah. But both of them are great zone corners. Like I said, whoever's coaching those guys is doing a great job.
So I got a quick question though for you, Coach. Would you waste a first round corner pick on a zone type corner that you can go get in the second and third round with ease?
So if that corner was two other guys, yes. And you all know who those two other guys are. If it's anybody else, I might trade that pick, if that's what you're asking. But if it's those two other guys that we all know that's not on this list, yes, I'm gonna take them.
Okay.
And I think to what Denard just said kind of like triggered something in my head that I didn't even take into account is how deep this cornerback class is.
Yes.
Because you could get some really good cornerbacks in the third and the fourth round in this draft.
Yeah.
My favorite is Woolen. I love Woolen.
I was gonna say Josh Williams, Tariq Woolen. You get some long dudes. Akeem Evans,
the kid from Mississippi State, Emerson or something. That's like 6'2", 6'3".
Long dudes. Pause. You can get some corners in this draft.
All right. But I do think they'll probably double dip though in this draft at cornerback.
I agree.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, definitely.
We're gonna keep moving. We're gonna go back up to the other side. Ooh, this is a good one right here. Coach Carey at it again. Jordan Davis versus Trevor Henning. How y'all want to do it? Y'all switching this time? We'll go first. Or y'all keeping something?
It don't matter. I'll go first. It don't matter. Yo, Trevor, it's me and Carey again. So yeah, I go first.
Time up. The big man out of Georgia. I'll let you hold it down. All right. Ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go.
All right, so every time, well, we've only had one. We had one great linebacker in the Ravens history, middle linebacker, and that's been Ray Lewis. That's everybody can agree on that, right? So without Goose, without Nada, Ray's not the player he is. If you have the opportunity to take Davis and set him at your nose and your one technique, Malik becomes a better player if he's going to be the Mike, because the old guys can get up out of there now. Queen will be better because, he'll be able to run around more because it'll be more guys eating up blockers. Jordan Davis is one of two guys in this draft, in my opinion, that command double teams every play. Every play. So now you're running with pretty much the defense has the numbers game because two guys are blocking Jordan Davis. If you single block him, he's gonna get off that guy, depending on unless it's like an all pro. He will get you some interior pass rush. In the run game, he's probably the best run defensive lineman in this game. Only negative on him is how will he be a 3 down guy? Because everybody, he's 340, and that's still a lot of weight, but he runs faster than most QBs. So Jordan Davis can set the rest of your team up, your linebackers and your secondary up for success.
it is. All right. All right, we can get you set, Carrie. You got Trevor Penning picking for the team. Appreciate you for that, Carrie.
Unfortunately. Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
All right, Trevor Penning. So we saw what happened with his Ravens O-line last year. We always talk about having guys that can help you in a pinch, move around to different positions. Well, the Ravens got pinched a lot last year. So they need to add some guys. And Penning is a guy who fits the bill as far as length, as far as play style, temperament, play strength. I typically don't like taking guys and moving them across the line. I think Penning, as long as Stanley is good, would project more as a right tackle. But he's a guy that's played some right tackle. I think in all 3 of the years he started, he's played some right tackle. So I think that transition will be a little bit more seamless. I also think he can maybe kick inside and play some left guard potentially too. I'm not crazy about his kind of reactive athleticism, but he's got so much length. I think that'll help him kind of recover with some of that reactive athleticism. So all in all, would be a solid pick, man. And you know, you want to build up front, build in the trenches. You don't ever want to happen what happened last year as far as his O line. So you know, he'd be a guy that can come in and definitely help you.
All right. Okay, so let's go around the room and get the votes on this one. Chris, I'm gonna start with you. Who you voting for?
I'm going to go. I mean, both of them are, you know, tremendous athletes and some of the top athletes at their position that ever test. But I'm going to go with the defensive freak in Jordan Davis. I think he has. He can come in and he has a higher potential. He has a higher floor, a higher ceiling, in my opinion. I think he could come in and really develop into a special player because there aren't. I don't know about it. There aren't any guys in the world who are that big and who can move the way he can. So you get him and you get some seasoning with Calais Campbell and you're able to develop. I think that they'll be able to do some special things with Jordan Davis for the years to come.
All right, there's one for Jordan Davis. Denard, who you voting for?
I'm not a big fan of either one of these players, to be perfectly honest. I think Trevor Penning is a little overrated. I think his attitude and his reckless behavior in terms of how he plays is a little off-putting for me. Because even if you constrain that, there's still a little bit of that Richie Incognito type of mindset there. So not vibing with that. And then on the other side, Jordan Davis, I think he'd be a great fit in what the Ravens do, and that would be my choice. But he reminds me of Albert Hainsworth in every sense of the word, and it just bothers me. All of it. The conditioning, the dominating, double team commanding, the little bit of the whimsical attitude he has, and you just don't know because people are already talking about how his weight fluctuated Georgia between 340 and 360. And we know at college that probably meant he was about 375, 380 coming into camp, and it took him quite the time to get into good shape.
So
I'm going with Jordan Davis.
Okay. That don't sound like he picked nobody. You said in every sense of the word. Now hold on. I don't think there's been no stories about Jordan Davis credit card swiping nobody at the restaurant. I don't think we heard nothing about it. You know,
That at Chipotle?
Albert has some stories because we talked about that when you said that name. I was like, man, yeah, I can see it, but I'm like young Albert, not Washington Albert to Tennessee. Washington Albert, once he got his money, that was a different deal. All right, so again, my vote doesn't matter. But I was gonna go for Jordan Davis. I do think O-line is important though. I think we all probably agree on that. At some point in the draft, you want to see them take a tackle, because to me, and this is like it's too simple of a way to look at it, but I don't know. I like looking at it this way. Because there's other things. There's other parts of the offense and team and stuff. But at its simplest, if you think back to when Lamar had the most consistent O-line, he was an MVP, right? He had protection. We've seen what this guy can do. And then ever since then, it's kind of been shaky, right? Except for those, I forget when Ronnie got hurt in 2020. It was maybe 4 or 5 games in, 6 games in, something like that. So ever since that point, there's been flux on the O-line. They had to move Orlando over to left. You're doing different things over there at right tackle. And last year, we saw what happened after they traded Orlando away. So, look, they can still run the ball. We saw that last year. Even with the collection of running backs that they had to bring in off the street, they were still able to run the ball, pretty effectively. They got wide receiver talent, more than they've had, since Lamar has been the starter. And we know what Andrews is. So, to me, it's like the priority on offense is protecting Lamar. Right? Everything else is kind of there, but you got to protect him in terms of pass protection. Whereas defense, and this is why I think you can maybe make the case to go the other way. It might not necessarily be for Penny as the player, but just another offensive tackle is like, look, you brought in Mike Pierce, you re-signed Calais Campbell, you got Justin Madubuike, you got Broderick Washington, you got about 3 different young nose tackle body types: Isaiah Mike, Khalil McKenzie, Aaron Crawford. I think Derek Wolfe is still on the roster.
He's still there.
Yeah, he's still there. So, I mean, you could kind of make that case the other way a little bit. I mean, you could say, okay, they signed Morgan Moses and they got Juwan James. Juwan James ain't played in almost 2 years. And then Morgan Moses, yeah, he's probably solid for this year, but he's probably not your long-term answer at tackle. And you still don't really know what you're going to get with Ronnie, regardless of what the report said about where he's at in his health. You don't know until you see it on the field. So I could have gone the other way just in terms of the position. Like Denard said, I don't know that I love the player that much at 14 in Penny, but I'm kind of feeling the position. But then Jordan Davis, look, there just ain't nobody else like that dude. It's like Bill Parcells. That's the planet theory. There ain't many people on the planet that look like him and can move like him. So, you get somebody like that in the middle of your defense, and you got a game plan for him. I think somebody else said that, talking about different players. Until you think about these different players they take at 14. Who's a guy that you got a game plan for?
Him.
Game plan for Jordan Davis. You can't just say, "Oh, we just gonna single block him." Okay, that ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work.
Unless you got what's the guard for the Colts? That caliber player,
Quentin Nelson.
Nelson, yeah. Unless you got that caliber player blocking him, you got a game plan for him. But I will say this about Penny. I don't know how it would work because he's so tall, but I think he'd be a great guard. I just don't understand how he could do it because he's so, because his verticality and leverage will work against him. But he'd be a great guard with that nastiness. I just don't think he had the feet to be tackled.
He played some guard in Northern Iowa. And they said he played some at the Senior Bowl. He took some snaps inside a guard at the Senior Bowl because I think some teams wanted to see him.
I think that's going to be his money, playing guard.
So, quick question before we move on: has Juwan James played any left tackle, left guard?
He's played left tackle
in Miami, I think.
Yeah. When he was young, before he went to the Broncos. I don't know about guard. I don't know.
I mean, Ravens like to spend so much draft capital on offensive line and still don't work. I'm trying to solve problems here.
I mean, because that's really where the battle is, at that left guard position.
Yeah. You don't know. I mean, is it Cleveland? Is it Powers? Is it Tyree?
He can't stay healthy.
We don't know.
All right.
Yeah. Tyree's had injury issues. That's for sure. But yeah, we don't know. All right, let's get this last first round matchup in. Okay. Oh, damn. This ain't a fair fight. This ain't a fair fight. All right. It's me. Chris got Jermaine Johnson. I got George Karloftis. I will be calling him by his God-given name.
What other name would you call him?
I don't know.
He's not hanging out with ET, is he?
Say pulling up at the car wash.
Out on Twitter.
Nah, they're not related, so he's not invited.
That's got to be in the family. It's got to be in the family. All right, Chris, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
All right, let me get. Yeah, I don't know, Coach. You tell me. What other name would you be? You ever heard any other names?
CD.
He's scoring touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one.
A lot of penalties on those flags. A lot of penalties on those plays. A lot of laundry on the floor. A lot of laundry.
All right, here we go. Chris, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
All right, so Jermaine Johnson, he's a guy came up through JUCO. He was on Last Chance U. After he did his thing down there at JUCO, he transferred over to Georgia, played a couple seasons there, and decided to forge his own path and get some more playing time down at FSU. And he made the most of his opportunity. Had led the ACC in tackles for loss, led the ACC in sacks too, and he was also team captain his first year at FSU, first and only year at FSU. So a guy that could come into a program and be voted as a leader, that says big things. And we know that the Ravens, they love those team captains. He's a guy who flashes strong hands, has good size, he has good length as well. He's able to play the run, and we know the Ravens, when they bring those rookies in, you have to be able to play the run like we saw with Oweh. That's what got him on the field early, and that's what will get Johnson on the field early, is being able to play the run. He also flashes a good rush plan. When he was down at the Senior Bowl, he was toying with all those tackles that were trying to block him up. He's a heck of an athlete. 91st percentile in the broad jump, 92nd percentile in the 40, 97th percentile in the 10-yard split. And the guy has a nonstop motor. A lot of these sacks we see, they're from secondary efforts. It's not just winning off the first move.
Oh, there he is. All right. It's Chris on Jermaine Johnson. Oh, put that down. Let's do that. All right. George Karloftis. Here we go.
Good luck, Mike.
Hey, you had Penny and you did your thing, man.
Make sure you have your shots.
Oh, see.
Keep scoring. Keep scoring.
What y'all said. All right.
Never
Here we go.
change.
Here we go. All right. George Karloftis, edge rusher out of Purdue. People may not have realized this, but when you look at win rate, right, you see a lot of different stats out there, but when you look at pass rush win rate, right, we're taking out some of the other noise and some of the, when you just talk about sacks and pressure, sometimes that doesn't account for, was there a blitz? Was there a stunt? Was some kind of schemed up thing? No, this is just straight one-on-one. Did I beat my guy? He was second in win rate percentage in 2021 out of the edge rushers in this class. A lot of people don't know that about him. More of a power game. I think you see that when you watch him. He's not necessarily that guy that's going to bend and burn around the edge, but more of a power player. Give you that inside-outside versatility that, we've seen the Ravens have in guys over the years, whether it's Pramel, McPhee, make sure you can even go way back to like a Jared Johnson. But what's the other dude I'm thinking about out of Alabama? Big Bone brother. Forgetting his name. Anyway, we've seen them, gravitate towards those guys who can line up in the edge on one play and then kick inside in obvious passing situations. And I think that's really where Karloftis could make his money, is rushing inside against guards. That's where you can see the quickness that maybe doesn't quite show up on the edge, show up on the inside in a tighter space. All day motor. How many of you guys have played water polo? Let me just ask you that. Anybody out here play water polo?
I can't even swim.
right? So you don't know what kind of stamina it takes to be in the pool for that long.
Wow.
Okay. All right. Let's
When you talk about Courtney Upshaw, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Courtney Upshaw. Just guys who I don't know that I don't really know that they move Courtney inside that much, but he had the body type for it. That's for damn sure. All right, let's go around the room, Coach. We're gonna start with you. I think I know you, but
George Karlaftis, I think he's the best, not the best out of these two. I think he's the better interior rusher. So I think if he was I think he's a 3 technique in the NFL. In a 3-4 system, I think he's a 3 technique, not an edge guy. Somebody takes him and put him at 3. I think they got something, but people gonna force him to be an edge guy. But Jermaine Johnson is, I don't think his, and I think Karlaftis is kind of, he's probably going to be the player he is going to be. He's close to his ceiling, in my opinion. Jermaine Johnson still got a lot of room to grow. He's extremely athletic, freakishly athletic, can give you speed, can give you power, can convert speed to power. And and even though it was against Miami had horrible O-line. What he did to those linemen was laughable. And I'm a Miami fan, the way the O-line looked that game. So, if it's between Karlaftis and Johnson, I got to pick Jermaine Johnson.
There's one. All right, Denard. Who you voting for?
I'm going to go with Jermaine. I agree with Coach in terms of George. I think he might even be a very good 5 in the right scheme in a 3-4. Just being able to control the line of scrimmage in terms of that guard tackle hole. But I don't see the value in taking that type of individual at 14 at this point.
All right, Kerry, you get to say your piece, but we know who the winner is.
Yeah, I'm definitely going Jermaine Johnson here. Like these guys have pointed out, just the upside on him. He fits what the Ravens look for in an edge, but he's athletic. He's long. He has that burst to his game. Not to pile on George, but when I watched him, I just didn't really see it as an edge guy. He's one of those guys that I feel like he has some strength, but I didn't see like impose your will kind of power that's going to translate to the NFL game. Denard made a great point, stick him at 5 technique and, maybe he can hold some ground there. But as far as an upside, taking a guy at 14, I just don't see it with him.
So there it is. All right. We got our final 4. We got Drake London going up against Jordan Davis and Trent McDuffie going up against Jermaine Johnson. We'll start on the left side with London and Davis. Coach and Kerry, y'all been holding this side of the bracket down. We'll continue. So here we go. Who's going first?
I can go first.
All right, Kerry's going to go first with Drake London. Let me get your time up. And go.
Yeah. So again, we got a matchup here where both of these guys are kind of projections. Younger guys, we want to see the best of their game moving forward. With London, we've spelled it out a lot of different things with his game, how he fits, how he kind of would complete this wide receiver room. Something that guys pointed out that I didn't even get to is after the catch ability. The Ravens don't have a ton of that. So, that would be a huge help, having another guy that can get some things done after the catch. Also, he fits as a blocker. He will compete as a blocker. I don't see him necessarily being a guy that's out there, pancaking guys, but he definitely gives big effort there. And again, he's only 20 years old, has that basketball background. And last year was the first year that he didn't play basketball. He just focused on football. So there's some untapped things there with him being able to focus solely on football, but bringing some of that muscle memory, some of those movement skills to the football field. So, just a lot of upside in the pick with London.
There we go. The time to spare. All right, Coach. Coming up on Jordan Davis again.
I'm ready.
Hey, ready? All right. Nope.
All right. So not to say some of the same things over, but again, you put him in the front of your defense. It helps out the linebackers and it helps out the secondary. But you think about him going up against London. So you look at positional needs, and you look at and you mentioned it, Kerry, the youth movement. When you look at receivers, we got a ton of young guys at receiver. Hollywood's 24, Bateman's 22, Prochet's 25, Duvernay's 24, Wallace 22. And if they decide to draft somebody, he'll be young also. But then you flip that over to the interior D line. You don't have that same youth movement, and you need a guy to start weaning some of these older cats out because they're gonna have way more. It's gonna be tougher on them on Monday mornings than it will be a Jordan Davis when he get up in there. And you look at Pierce, 29. Matabike is young, but he's 24. Calais is 35. Wolf, 32. And you got some young guys in there that are around 20, the mid-20s, but they not Jordan Davis. So I think Jordan Davis serves two roles. They help out the entire defense, and it starts your youth movement toward the defensive line because him and Matabike could be a force for a long time together.
All right. We're going to start with you on this one, Denard. Who you voting for?
I'm going to go with Jordan Davis because Coach just piqued my interest with the idea of having Jordan Davis at the 1 and having Justin at the 3 in a 4-man front and just go at it, boys. So, yeah, and then having Bowser and
Oweh
on you are freakishly long and disruptive in the right spots. So that intrigues me very much.
All right, Chris, there's one vote for Jordan Davis. Who you voting for?
It's tough, but I'm gonna go with Drake London. Just because it piques my imagination to see Lamar with a true big wide receiver and a guy who can provide that after the catch wiggle that nobody really on the roster can bring. And we've seen what loading up at wide receiver could do. I know we have a bunch of young dudes, but loading up at wide receiver is done wonders for other teams. And I feel like, if we add this dude to the mix, it could potentially bring the offense to another level. So that's why I'll go with Drake London.
Oh, I get to be a tiebreaker. Well, look, on the Fire Zone show, we talk defense. And if I don't want to get replaced, I better be careful about who I am.
You're gaslighting, narcissistic.
He might just show me the door. Hey, man, this ain't working out. Hey, look, this is tough. Chris said it's tough, and Chris and Kerry and Denard know because we had another group, another chat together. I've been team Need for Speed early. I was out there real early, even back when I was kind of going through my Fire G-Row phase, which is crazy coming from me. Coach probably don't even believe I was on that, but they can tell you I was on it for a minute. But I don't really think that I can do it again with another early wide receiver. I think there's guys in this class. They're not Drake London, but I think that there's guys later in this class. If you want to bring in another wide receiver to add to the room, I think you can do that. There is nobody else like Jordan Davis in this class. There's nobody else like him. I know I said there's no other Drake Londons, but there's other big wide receivers who can maybe give a little bit of what he brings to the table. Nobody else can do what Jordan Davis does. I mentioned it on Twitter. If you're looking at trump cards, you look at players and what's their trump card. His trump card is run defense, and like Coach said, I think he can give you a little something in pass rush too. But it's run defense, and it's the big joker. Nobody else has a card that can be his card when it comes to run defense. It just is what it is. And I know DeCosta talked about wanting to get younger on the defensive line, and Coach ran through all the ages of the guys out there. So I think it just makes a lot of sense to do that. Just because of that positional need. I mean, I like both of the players. I really like Drake London too, but When you look at the positional need, when you look at what you think you can do up front defensively, and how that's gonna help you at the linebacker level and at the secondary level. When you've got guys like that up front, it just really can help your defense. So hopefully I'll get to stay on the Fire Zone show with that pick, and we are going to move to the next round. I don't know. I
On
had
my
to go.
shirt bag.
I know. I already had to go against Lloyd, so I might already be removed from the show. You see me a DM later. You're done. You're done. Okay. So now on the other side of the bracket, we got Jordan Davis making it through to the final round. On the other side, we got Trent McDuffie going against Jermaine Johnson. I guess that's me and Chris doing this. You want to go first, Chris, or you want me to go?
I'll go first.
All right, let's get your time up. Keep in mind, I've heard about some off-field issues with Jermaine Johnson. So I'm just
already started.
I'm just kidding. Somebody say it was a gas mask video out there. I don't know who put that rumor out there. That stuff's nasty this time of year. All right, you ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Here we go.
All right, since we're throwing dirt on opponents,
Wow.
I just want to let the panel know that Trent McDuffie is in the 5th percentile of arm length of all time. All right.
It's gotten to this point.
So if that's what you like, then go right ahead. But now, seriously. So when you look at the Ravens roster, you got Odafe Owe, and you got Dalen Hayes, you got Tyus Bowser, who's coming off of an Achilles, and then you got the sack daddy in quotes. That's a pretty dry all outside linebacker group right there. Because when you look at Tyus, there's no guarantee he'll be back. There's no guarantee that if he comes back, he'll be the same Tyus Bowser. Like I said earlier, we've seen it with the Ravens and these injuries. It's never a guarantee that these guys will be back. So adding a guy like Jermaine Johnson, it would just be I don't think the Ravens have had something like that where they've had two young studs who can match up and grow together and grow in a defense together that can hunt quarterbacks the way that these two guys would be able to. And I think if you pop in the tape of Jermaine Johnson versus Ike Ekwonu, who's a projected top 5 guy, you see why Jermaine Johnson is such a highly touted prospect, because he gave Ike a lot of problems in that NC State game.
All right. Let me go ahead and get my time up. The dirt has been kicked.
You started it, Mike. You started it.
Yeah.
And I would like to correct something Chris said before you start, Mike. That guy's name is Pressure Daddy.
Had to change.
Oh, baby.
All right, here we go. Trent McDuffie. All right. You heard some of the stuff, some of the, the traits and things I talked about with McDuffie earlier, so I'm not going to rehash those. I'm gonna do it from another angle. Let me throw out some names for you. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Amari Cooper, and wide receivers to be named later who Deshaun Watson will be throwing to. Anyway, I think you get the point where I'm going. You got wide receivers in this division. You've got to cover. You've got to have cover guys to match up and play these guys. We talked about the injuries at the outside linebacker position. We got injuries at the starting cornerback position. We need guys out there who can match up and who can cover. You got Mike McDonald coming back as a DC. We don't 100% know what he's going to do. Denard and I did a couple of film sessions on his defense in Michigan to kind of get a feel. But until he's back at the NFL level and out on the field, we don't really know. But we know that he's, got some of that wink, DNA to him. And so, hold on. What'd you say, Harps? Oh, you can scheme pass rush? Oh, you don't need to draft edge rush? You can. Okay. Hey, he said we can scheme pass rush. We don't really need to draft edge rushers early. He said, don't worry about that. Just give me some guys who can cover, and I'll make the pass rush happen. So I think we're good. I think it kind of makes the case for itself for Trent McDuffie. So I'm gonna go ahead and rest right there.
That's a low blow.
You heard it for
That's
yourself.
a
I
low
just
blow.
turned around and
That's
asked him. He was like,
that's a low blow. He in the room with the people. That's a low blow.
That's disgustingly low.
This side, right back there. Okay, Coach, we're gonna start with you. Who you voting?
Man. All right, so this is the dilemma for me. I like JJ over McDuffie as a player, but I think the need for corner is more pressing than the need for edge. But I'm going to pick Jermaine Johnson, and this is why. I think an edge player getting off and being good helps out the secondary more than a secondary guy being able to cover longer helping the edge guy. I think if the edge guy can get pressure in 2 or less seconds, that the corner doesn't have to cover as long as far as and if the corner has to cover 4 or 5 seconds to help the edge guy, that doesn't help the team. So I think Jermaine Johnson's impact on the team will be higher than Trent McDuffie, even though there's a need for a third corner ASAP, because Jermaine Johnson could make those slapdicks that we talked about earlier better.
Wow.
Pressure. Kerry, we're gonna go to you on this one. We're gonna let Denard have the last vote on this one. Kerry, we'll come to you first. Who you voting for?
Man, this one is tough, man, because like Chris tweeted the other day about McDuffie, talking about how he wasn't high on him, wasn't low on him, but a lot of people we trust throughout the process have been high on him, and it's kind of changed his view, where I feel the exact same way. Watching McDuffie, I kind of saw like some shades of Ladarius Webb when I watch him. I don't think he's not as talented as Webb, don't get me wrong, but I saw some shades of that. The arm length bothers me, the lack of ball production bothers me, and I think that is kind of my hang up with him as far as the overall upside. And a lot of these guys, it comes down to, I like them, but would I take them at 14? You know what I mean? Like if we're trading down, it's a different kind of proposition. So, it's just tough, man. I'm going to go with Jermaine Johnson. I just think he's a little bit of a better player. I think he's better value at 14, and I get the argument of secondary versus edge rush, but like Coach said, a strong pass rush will help your secondary, and I think you can find some guys later in the draft to kind of help you in the secondary.
All right, y'all not listening. Y'all saw me talk to Coach. He told you. Go ahead, you can. My man is already through, but let's hear what your would be.
If there's a different corner there, I'd probably take corner. I think the lack of talented individuals on the D line it's just starting to scream at you when you start looking at the Ravens defensive line, and what they have is just, you need more. You need more athletes. You just need more bodies, because that division is just, you're going to be rushing the passer with Joe Burrow, with Deshaun Watson, and whoever the Steelers decide they're going to trade for before the season starts, because they're just not going to go into the season with Mitch Trubisky. So, is that Jimmy Garoppolo? If that's someone else, there's another arm coming in there. So, get after the pass rush. So I'll Jermaine Johnson is fine for that pick for me.
Man, it's already been pretty disrespectful what the Browns have done to Baker. I don't blame them. I mean, look, set aside what Deshaun got going on off the field. If we just talk about the player, it's a no-brainer. What if they traded him to the Steelers? Talk about the disrespect. We don't even care if we play you in the division. Everybody scared of you.
He's going to be down in Houston. They're going to return the favor.
You and your commercials can leave.
He'll probably end up in Seattle or Carolina or something like that. They ain't going to do that in the division.
Nah.
All right. So here we go into the final. We got, I was going to say 2 Georgia guys, but a former Georgia guy and a current Georgia guy. Jermaine could have got him a ring if he stuck around there, but that's what it is. He bet on himself, and looks like he's going to be a high draft pick, make some money. All right, so Coach has got Jordan Davis. Chris has got Jermaine Johnson. Which one of y'all 2 want to go first?
Doesn't matter. I'll go first.
Okay. Get your time up. And all right, you ready?
Ready to go.
Let's do it.
All right. So so this is Jermaine Johnson. This is just going philosophically, like an outside linebacker going up against a nose tackle. I want to get the outside linebacker. He's going to have more opportunities to make an impact on the game. He's going to be in on high leverage situations, meaning third down, and situations where he could get the ball out of the quarterback's hand or sack the quarterback or create a turnover. Jordan Davis, how many plays is he going to have during the game? What is his snap percentage going to be? Is he going to be in shape to play, the full game? These are all question marks that we have with him. And we don't have those question marks with Jermaine Johnson. With Jermaine Johnson, we know his motor runs hot. We know he's going to be a guy that's going to step in and handle his business, because that's what he did at Florida State when he became, their leading tackler, their leading sack getter, their team captain. Jordan Davis, there are questions about weight fluctuation. We don't have those questions with Jermaine Johnson. So do we want the guy who's going to be, hopefully turn into a somewhat 3-down player, or a guy who can truly step in day one and be a true 3-down player and make impacts on the game?
There it is. We also know he abused the hell out of the Miami Hurricanes. We know that too.
So you really don't want me to come back, do you?
But I can slide it. I catch him slipping. Didn't work. All right, Coach, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
See, my final argument, I was not going to go the comparing route. But since Chris went there, we got to go there. All right, so as for y'all know the NFL, and Mike listed a bunch of receivers nowadays. The quick passing game kind of negates the edge guy. So him doing all these moves off the edge is probably not going to get there a lot as what would happen in the past. So and when they step up, who's going to be there to push the pocket from the inside? That's where mostly the disruption comes from, the inside guy. And so that's why Jordan Davis gives you better value than Jermaine Johnson. All right, to the next point. Those edge rushing opportunities that Chris spoke of, they're going to come because there are 2 people blocking Jordan Davis. There's not going to be 2 people out there blocking Johnson. So, that's another edge that Davis has over Johnson. You got it's the matchup. He's gonna command 2 people, and if you single him, he's gonna make the play. And then the last one is consistency. If Jordan Davis was consistent over the entire year, even whether he played 2 downs or 3, he was consistent every game. Johnson showed up in some games, showed up in not some games. Miami game, he definitely showed up. And then my last point is, if he was so much of a dog, why'd he leave off the team with Jordan Davis?
Yeah, I mean, you scared? You scared? Nah, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. His dad, it was funny. I read an article, Jermaine Johnson, his dad was in. His dad, you could tell his dad felt some type of way about the rotation down there. He was like, he's not going to get enough film to help him get drafted high, especially when he's in this rotation that's happening for no reason. So, his dad was
the funny thing, they kept that same rotation and just added a different guy.
For him, he went from playing from averaging 27 snaps to averaging 60 snaps at FSU. So he was like, I want to go flash this, and damn the ring, I'm trying to make millions in this draft.
They definitely had a plan.
But I do think in this draft cycle, he's the most how do I say it? Come up. He's come up the most, I guess. But based off that point you just said.
Yeah, because he
went the game, so to speak.
He went to the Senior Bowl and kind of showed out too. I mean, people had seen the FSU tape and they're like, okay, he did his thing. Then he went to the Senior Bowl and was jacking dudes out of the Senior Bowl. It was like, okay. But Denard, I'm gonna let you start this one. I'll go in the middle and then I'll get Kerry. I try to get everybody a chance to go last to be the top, in case they get a chance to break the tie. So I don't think Kerry had a chance to be a tiebreaker yet. But I'll let you go first. And who are you voting for?
Jordan Davis. If those two are on the board, that's who I'm taking because he can help me cover up issues in the run game with my unathletic, half of my unathletic linebacker core of Bynes. So,
Josh can run a little bit.
Stop it. you saw what the Bengals did to him the last 2 games.
Oh, man.
They had that man on a top, and he still ain't done spinning.
Hey, look, the second Bengals game, that was a knife to a gunfight. They just ain't had nobody else. That was so many dudes who were out in that game. It was crazy.
They couldn't find Marlon Humphrey because he was hurt, so they just picked off Bynes.
And tell me why Malik couldn't get no run at linebacker in that game. They had Welch out there. They had that guy's name? Joe Davis.
Because Wink didn't like him. Wink has a particular middle linebacker type that he liked. And Malik Harrison was a draft pick that he did not want. And you saw that from day one.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Malik Harrison should have been starting next to Queen from day one in middle linebacker. We will be having this discussion about Devin Lloyd.
Right.
It makes you question where was Wink when he got shot.
We're dropping the who got you.
No. Did he sit out the hit spot? Did he drop the base tree?
Oh my
Chris
goodness.
dropping the who shot you.
Oh,
That was a good
Every
one.
time I saw Malik out there on special teams, Joey Porter, man, they tried to shoot me in Denver.
oh man.
I know he was moving like that. That's a dirty move. All right, let me do my vote real quick, and then we'll let Kerry. Because I like drama. I'm a guy that likes drama. I like to build it up. So I'm gonna vote for Jermaine Johnson here. I'm gonna make Kerry do a tiebreaker. But no. Here's why I'm going. Here's why I'm going, Jermaine Johnson. And all the things I know is going to sound crazy. All the things that I said about Jordan Davis, and now I'm flipping the script and going the other way. I do agree with the point that Coach made about the quick passing game and how sometimes those guys on the edge won't have enough time to get home because the ball's coming out so quick, and so that interior pressure, or at least presence, push, guy just kind of pushing the pocket back so the quarterback doesn't have anywhere to step up, can be more effective. But when I look at a guy like Jermaine Johnson and I say, okay, I'm going to throw him in the mix with Oweh. I'm going to throw him in the mix with Bowser. I'm going to throw him in the mix with Dalen Hayes. I'm going to throw him in the mix with Pressure Daddy. I think that I can move those guys around, and they're not just going to rush exclusively from the edge. I'm going to have those guys moving around, running games, lining up in different places. And so I think they can get some of that quick pressure on the inside. They may not start out aligned on the inside, but they may end up there, depending on what their rush path is or whatever. So I think you can still get that. And now you're adding a guy who's quicker and more athletic, giving you that inside pressure, as opposed to just the big body, who's trying to give you that push inside. So I did have a legitimate reason. I really wasn't just trying to put it on Kerry. But now, Kerry, it is on you.
That really sounds like Harbs whispering in your ear.
Yeah. I'm telling
you. Well, since you're going to have a basic defense now, you can actually run straight up pass rush games and not have to worry about someone being out of position.
There you
go.
go.
Don't do that. You don't want to do that. He told me he don't want to do that. All right, Gary.
All right, man. So it's a tough one, man. I like both of these players. Jermaine Johnson, compelling arguments have been made about him, what he brings off the edge. Like I said, if you draw up a Ravens edge rusher in the likeness that they would like to see, I think you'll see a guy like this, big physical guy with length that will play the run, set the edge, do those kind of things, but he's got that explosiveness upfield as a pass rusher. Then you got Jordan Davis, pound for pound, the best athlete we've ever seen at the combine. But I think back to a couple of things when making this decision. Eric DaCosta talked about the defensive line, and he talked about how they knew that this was going to be the year that they were going to have to replenish the defensive line through the draft. And then when you look at Jordan Davis, he's got the highest upside of any defensive lineman in the draft. And then also when you look at his major kind of bugaboo, I would say is he's a, tall, long guy who struggles with leverage at times. Well, let's link him up with Calais Campbell and let him learn from him. Maybe not necessarily all the tricks of the trade as far as leverage, but to be that long, stout guy that can, still dominate even if your pad level isn't at the greatest point. So at the end of the day, man, the upside is just too much for me to kind of ignore, and I'm going to go with Jordan Davis.
There it is.
There's the winner.
There's the winner.
But Kerry, you brought up a very good point that made me kind of think along the same lines as you are in terms of the selection and with Jordan Davis. And this kind of goes back to Brandon Williams. Kind of tie it all back in. As an organization, are you willing to hand the keys on your defense to this guy and say you're going to basically build around this guy like we did Brandon Williams for the last 7-8 years? Are you willing to do that again? That's how I feel like it's the ultimate question if Davis is on the board.
So let's go around. Let's go around the room. We've crowned a winner. I just interested to get any kind of thoughts from each one of you about just Davis in particular, the overall process. Oh, and Chris, that's right. The thing that Chris told me. As we go around, who would you have picked to be the pick at 14? And it doesn't have to be somebody from this list. It could be somebody from this list. It could be another player. Who would be your pick? Because Chris, that was a good idea that you had to say, hey, everybody think about who you would have winning, either from this group or a different player. And let's just hear kind of where everybody was at on that. So I'll start with, I guess, first, Coach. I'll start with you first. Any thoughts about Jordan Davis being the pick, about kind of how the bracket went, and who would have been your pick at 14?
As far as Jordan Davis, I think like all the points that I said in the debates or whatever, he can obviously help you in your run situation, can give you some interior pass rush if it's not like an obvious third and long or whatever. But there aren't any other guys in the draft like Jordan Davis. There are plenty corners, there are plenty O linemen. There, like the 3 O linemen, you talk about the top 3. You don't talk about a top 3 interior D lineman. You talk about Jordan Davis and the rest. So I think he stands out, and if he's there, it would be a great pick, and be a cornerstone for a long time because he gets a year to learn from Calais, and maybe Calais will teach him how to be a pro, and teach him about staying in shape and all the ins and outs of playing the game, and that would benefit his career. Now, best case scenario pick for me would be Stingley.
Yeah.
If it's anybody on the board that I would love to have, it would be Stingley.
That would be a very good scenario. 100% with you on that. Okay, Denard, I'm gonna come to you. You did just express your thoughts on Jordan Davis, so you can say more. You don't have to say more, or you can talk about who your pick would have been and why does their name ride with Levin Lloyd.
Well, obviously, I would pick Devin Lloyd because I think the Ravens tipped their hand when they went after the linebacker from Seattle.
Yeah, Bobby Wagner.
They tipped their hand because that's the type of linebacker you need to function highly in Eminem's system. If you go back in the 2 games we saw, the Michigan game, they ran a lot of dual linebackers with the safety kind of playing the rover spot. So you need 2 stud ducks in there who can handle their own. And currently on the roster, I'm not feeling very confident that both guys can stay on the field in passing situations. So there's a giant hole that has been there for a very long time that have not addressed and has been an issue, not only on this football team, but across the NFL with unappreciated linebacker play. And these tight ends are running all over the place, catching 150 balls, and everybody's like, well, it's a safeties issue. No, it starts with a linebacker and ends with a linebacker. So you got an opportunity to put a stud for the next 10 years that's going to solve that problem. I don't see anybody else in this draft who you can say I can plug in day one and we can ride that person to the Super Bowl.
Devin Lloyd taking them to the chip. Dang, strong. Chris, I go to you. Any thoughts on Jordan Davis, and who would have been your pick at 14?
So Jordan Davis, I like the pick a lot because he presents like a new era, so to speak, as far as that position is concerned, the nose tackle position. He's the next evolution of it. You know, the Ravens always had these short, little stubby guys, whether it's Justin Bannon, Brandon Williams, those kind of guys. And Jordan Davis is the complete opposite of that. He's tall, he's long, wildly athletic, like we've been saying all night. So he would bring a new element to that position that they've never had. As far as a guy that big that can move like that. The closest is Haloti, and Haloti looks like a child next to Jordan Davis. So I think you said, Mike, where you said what Bill Belichick says, that the planet theory, where everything's just, revolves around him. And I think he can do so much and attract so much attention where he can free up guys like Owe and Tyus when he's healthy. And he'll be able to provide that in a way where it might not show up in the stat sheet, but if you watch the game, you can see how much he's actually contributing and how big of a factor he is in the game.
Yeah, real quick before I go to Kerry, the one, I kept trying to, Denard said Haynesworth, and I think that was the perfect comp. I've seen people mention Jamal Williams, played for the Chargers back in the day. I've seen Ted Washington. I've seen a bunch of different. I mean, of course, Ravens people have said Haloti. But you think about having a guy as athletic as Jordan Davis was, and not just about the combine. Obviously, he put on a freak show at the combine. But you watch him on tape, and you see him move. You see that athleticism on tape. And, it's just something that they just haven't had. I mean, as good as Brandon Williams was, and when he was in his prime, he's probably one of the best run stopping nose tackles in the game. But this is a different cat. This is different in terms of how he's built. So I would love to see him in this defense, and I would love to see Patrick Queen be able to play in front of a guy like him in this defense and let him do what he does best, which is run from sideline to sideline and hit stuff. I mean, this is what he does best. So I would love it to see him have that kind of protection. And Coach mentioned that, back in the day when it was Gusa and Sam Adams, and they let Ray run, and you heard Ray voice that, like, get me some people that can keep me clean, and I'm gonna do what I do.
I mean, we're forgetting. Everyone keeps talking about all those like Jared Johnson and all them. People forget about Trevor Price.
Oh yeah.
and him and Jordan Davis in terms of athletic prowess is kind of on the same level.
They ain't had nobody like in terms of like. I mean, I think he played mostly 5 technique while he was here. He probably kicked inside a little bit too, but they have not had anybody.
No,
Trevor Price.
They've been searching for that since he left.
Since Trevor Price.
Yeah.
Whew.
I mean, Calais is nasty. Don't get me wrong. Calais is nasty.
Trevor Price is a different world.
But we not getting Saxonville Calais. That's not what we got. So not taking nothing away from him. He's still nasty. But anyway, Kerry, you got the final word on this. What do you think about Jordan Davis as a pick? And
we got to hit Chris. Who would you would have?
That's right.
Who
that's right.
Who would you would have taken at 14?
I would have took Jermaine Johnson. I just think it's difficult to get outside linebackers who possess the kind of ability that he has. Those guys, they rarely ever hit the market. When you look at the top edge rushers in the league, they're usually taken high. So this is a perfect opportunity to actually get one of those guys instead of leaning on the formula of, drafting a mid-round guy and developing him and taking the time. And by the time he's good, he priced himself out. Mm-hmm. So that's why I would go with Jermaine Johnson.
Okay, so we've had Stingley, Lloyd, Jermaine Johnson, now Kerry. It's up to you. Who would you have picked, and what do you think about Davis?
Yeah, so my pick would have been Lloyd too. I just think he's a guy that he solves the middle of the field for you. He brings you pass rush. He keeps Queen at weak side. Like he just answers so many questions, even though inside linebacker may not be a top tier need. As Denard pointed out, and in this defense that we expect to see, it is kind of a bigger need. And so, a guy with his length, his versatility, all the things he brings to the table, he would have been my pick. As far as the exercise, as far as Jordan Davis, I didn't go into this thinking he was going to be the guy that was going to make it out of this. But and I like him as a player going in, but it kind of, I warmed more to it as the process kind of played out. And it's one of those things where you got 5 different guys with 5 different viewpoints, but everybody is open-minded to what the other person is saying. That's what this kind of exercise creates is, cream rises to the top, and that's what ended up happening in this situation.
Yeah, and I've said my piece on Jordan Davis, so I'll just say who my pick would have been. And it's funny because, people talk about bias in this and how we have our biases. Mine clear as day, because my pick would have been Trent McDuffie. And Chris and Kerry have heard me talk about other short-armed cornerbacks like Roger McCreary. And yeah, I got a real bias for short-arm quarterbacks. Obviously, I never made it to the levels that these guys did, and they were much better athletes and players than me. But I was a short-arm and slow quarterbacks. That's not going to work. That don't. But that's my bias, And so I wasn't consciously thinking about it, but I'm like, man, why do I like these dudes so much? Why I keep gravitating to these dudes? How come I'm not, gravitating to Tariq Woolen or Josh Williams, and I like those guys. But it's like the first guys that I really kind of locked in on was the shorter guys. So that bias is a real thing, man. It's in there. But so it's like we all would have had different picks except for Kerry and Denard both going with Lloyd. So Denard, if you do decide to replace me, I think you found your replacement.
Keep pushing.
You had your guy. So hey, this was fun. It's always fun.
Always fun.
3rd year in a row. And tomorrow night, barring the Ravens trading out of the first round, we will find out who they're going to pick, whether that be at 14 or wherever that pick may be. And I guess, we didn't talk about that, and I don't want to go too much later. I know we've already been doing this for an hour and a half, but I think we all kind of have talked about it just on Twitter in different ways with spaces or whatever, that all of that is a real possibility too, right? That they may just trade out of this pick. They may trade back. into the first round.
Real quick. I just want to know, everybody, if you could trade up, realistic trade, like not Aiden Hutchinson or something like that, but if you could trade up to say like 6 or something, who would each of you want to take?
Thibodeau or Stingley. If I'm gonna lose draft capital, I think those two guys will be franchise players. So it should be on a franchise guy.
Yeah,
I'm with you both.
That's me too. Yeah, that's my exact two. Thibodeau and Stingley.
What about you tonight?
I would say Walker. If you getting froggy with it, go get froggy with it. Like, don't tiptoe. Go get it. If he's sitting there at 5, go get it. I don't know if he's gonna get it past 5, but if he's sitting at 5, you need to make that happen.
We know Dane Brugler loved him. Dane was on that dude early, way before the combine, way before any of this off-season stuff. He had that dude like his top 5. He's like, look, this dude is legit. And it's all projection because he's like, look, I know you can watch the tape and you say, oh, I don't really see him making that impact. But, he's looking at the traits. He's looking at the size. He's looking at the personality.
He just looks like a dog. He just looks like he played ball. He just wakes up in the morning, eats some Starburst, and goes to the gym.
Used to be a running back. That's crazy, huh? Used to be a running back.
I was telling Mike and Kerry when I first watched him, my damn laptop was shaking the way he was moving.
And what's so wild is they got 2 dudes back there, Jalen Carter and even Nolan Smith, who are just as wild, just as freaky.
Mm-hmm.
Nolan Smith is a missile, man. That dude is a missile.
That weren't eligible this year, but them dudes.
You check out Nolan Smith's Spark score coming out of high school. It doesn't even look real.
Yeah.
Them dudes, they might be as good as the guys coming out this year. So man, it's crazy. But yeah, I agree. I agree with those tries. I mean, Walker would be a guy too. I wouldn't have no problem going up for him either. Thibodeau, I think was growing on me more about Thibodeau, and this again, this bias too, right? I know it shouldn't happen, but not just what he does on the field, but just the way he's been carrying himself.
Right.
Right.
I told somebody today he either was raised right or he got good people in his corner, and probably a combination of both.
Yeah, because he moves like a pro already.
Yes.
Yeah, hey, he said it perfectly when they do something. What about those people? What about they who say, who is they?
Who is they?
Right. What are we talking about?
What's the name? Let's figure out who they is first, and then see if they're credible or not.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my 2, by the way, too. That's my 2. Is KT and Stingley. If either of those 2 start to fall. If Trayvon starts to fall too, I'm right there with you, Denard.
Like I say, he ain't getting past the Giants. But
if you take that dude,
that dude ain't getting by the Giants at 5.
I got a question.
Ain't no question.
Before we roll out, I'm gonna mention this article again. That article said that one of the coaches or scouts, it said that Trayvon didn't impress them. He was the 3rd freakish guy at their pro day, speaking on Wyatt and Davis, saying Walker was the 3rd freakish guy there. Now he shouldn't be a top pick. He should go behind those guys. What y'all think about that?
See, that's the interesting thing, because the thing with Walker, we know Jacksonville, Balky seems to love him. We don't know how many teams actually love him. So if they don't take him at 1, what happens? You got Aiden Hutchinson at 2, who's, right in their wheelhouse there in Michigan. You got they've been linked to KT. So, we can't make the assumption that just because he wouldn't go 1, that he would go 2. Right. Those guys like those 2 edge rushers. Who's to say they just say, hey, we're going to keep one of these guys, and then, what happens from there. So, I mean, you don't know.
And you could go O-line with that 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. Yep.
When I watch Walker on tape, he just jumps out. he just everything he does, you're just like, oh, let me watch. Yeah, let me run that back. Like you're always like, he's always in the mix. He's always in something. You don't see that all the time with Davis. You don't see that. You don't. That's why I'm like. That's why I think he shot up the board. I think that's why everybody's kind of looking at him now. It's just like when you see him compared to Davis, he was making more plays, maybe because of Davis. That's where you kind of have to see and what that was all about.
And like I said it on one of my shows. I haven't seen anything as violent as his when I think it was the Michigan center pulled in the playoff game. What he did to I haven't seen anything that violent since Clowney's hit. In pro, high school, or NFL football. I haven't seen anything that violent since Clowney's hit.
Yeah, I think Chris showed me that one, and I was thinking like, that guy owes him some money.
I watched it live in Buffalo Wild Wings in San Antonio, and I damn near flipped my plate over.
Because that's the only reason you hit somebody like that.
He saw his girlfriend last week. That's him.
That's why people get excited watching him too, because you're like, that's just the surface,
right?
Like he's just starting to scratch the surface of what he can be and how good he can be, and you're like, man, if he's doing that, and we can get that out of him consistently, like play after play. They really are there aren't other guys in this class doing that out of him consistently, like play after play. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I think you're right. Kerry laid out a good scenario. You could see him maybe start to go down a couple of picks if he don't go at one, and then it's like, okay, is somebody gonna go up and get him? If they say, well, we didn't think he was gonna be there at 5 or 6, but if he's there, somebody gonna go make that move and go get him. So it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy.
I think the Giants are really in play on what the Ravens might be willing to do if somebody falls.
Yeah, I can see that. We got 2 teams up there. Obviously, Wink knows how they roll. Joe Douglas with the Jets obviously knows how they roll.
And that's 4 picks between those 2 teams.
Yeah, so you got people up there that know how they roll, and Wink would love to stick it to the Ravens. You know he ain't happy about how this shit.
That's why that pick number 4 pick is interesting with the Jets, because the Ravens, if they, like I said, if you want to get froggy with it, you got enough picks to get there. Yeah, and next year's first round pick, is it necessary if you got to pay Lamar this amount of money, you got to pay this cat this amount of money, like. F those picks. At some point, F them. Let's roll.
I don't think we can end on a better note than that. That's a mic drop. So thank you again to Coach Evans. That's you can catch him on YouTube, Sip the Tally Films. You can catch him on Twitter. You can catch him on the football field. You can catch him in the classroom if you down that way.
Yes, sir.
All them places, right? And then thanks again to Denard. You'll be seeing us on the Fire Zone show probably sometime shortly after the draft, and
either him or Kerry.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Mike.
He said right in here, right now.
You getting your seat warm for tomorrow.
Hey,
look like they got you working the computer.
Right the sweet spot.
Turn around and send the pick in if we still do it.
Don't type the wrong name.
They talking. They got people thinking about that with like Drake London and Drake Jackson. They both from USC. Okay, do not Drake Jackson. Do not.
As long as you don't type scoring touchdowns, I'm good with you.
Now, see, I can live with that. I'm gonna let that one go because I can live with that. I know that, but I can live with that. All right, hey, we appreciate y'all. This is gonna get retweeted and reposted on different, places. It'll be on Deep Cover YouTube channel. Put it on the Fire Zone channel. We put it all over the place. So we appreciate y'all for tapping in, and let's get this three-peat, man. Let's do this thing.
Yes, sir.
Good. Let's do it.
Man. Y'all be good out there. And